Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is the next video in the additional skill RPA developer series where we are exploring the basics of databases. In case you are coming to the channel for the first time and you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing to the channel to get the latest updates. In the database basic series, we have already covered that how I can install the SQL server, what are the basics of databases, what is DBMS, DDL, DML, DCL, how you can create, insert, retrieve data from tables. We have seen some of the basic queries. How can I use select, what is where query, and we have also seen what is delete versus drop versus truncate. In case you are not aware of any of this, I have put the playlist link in the description for your reference that will guide you in all of this in a step-by-step manner. Okay. Having said that, let me go to the agenda for this video. Today, we are going to discuss about the aggregate functions which are available in the SQL. Now, when we talk about the aggregate functions, we have all these aggregate functions: count, average, min, max, and sum. Today in this video, I am going to walk through all the aggregate functions in a step-by-step manner, one by one, so that at the end we all are comfortable how and when to use which aggregate function. Okay. So to go to the aggregate function, first thing first, let's quickly jump to our SQL Server Management Studio. I'll go to the Object Explorer, and as you can see, I am already connected to my database, right? If you're not connected, this is how you will see this window: connect to server, provide the correct server name and hit on this button which says connect, right? Now all of this we have already covered in the first video. So if you are not understanding any of this, I would request you to watch the initial videos. Okay. I am connected to my server. In the server, I have got this database, UiPath database, which we have been working on. And inside that database, we have something which is called tables, right? Now, table is a place where the actual data is getting stored. Okay. And for our demonstration today, I have made this table, which is called the products table. Okay. So let's first quickly check what data I have in the product table, right? So I'll go to the database, hit on this guy, which is called new query. The shortcut is Control+N for this. And I am going to write a statement: select star from products. Okay. Simple statement. I am going to click on execute, and this shows that what all data we have in the table products. Okay. So as you can see here, we have got the product ID, which is the ID of the product. Then I have something which is called product name, and then there is something which is called segment, right? So if you analyze the data further, you would notice that I have certain different segments such as computer, stationery, vehicle, and electrical, right? When I talk about the computer, the laptop, keyboard, and the mouse are coming in the computer segment. For the stationery, I have pen, eraser. For electrical, we have tube light, bulbs, and for vehicle, we have tires and brake, right? Then this column stands for price, which means that how much you get one laptop for. So let's say it's 55,000. Eraser you got for 45. Brakes you get for 3,000, and this is the quantity, right? Small, simple, plain data so that we all can relate and understand, right? So this would be our data which we are going to use for today's all the aggregate function demonstration. Okay. Okay, so that was about the table which we have prepared. Now talking about the aggregate function. Aggregate function in SQL are used to perform the calculations on a set of values or in the table. Okay. Usually we use this to perform the sum, average, count, minimum, maximum, and the values, right? As we have already seen that these are all the aggregate functions which we are going to talk about. If I have to just give a quick overview, the sum, as the name suggests, will count. Average gives the average. Count will give you the count of values. Min and max returns you the maximum and the minimum value. We are going to see what else we can do with this aggregate functions and what would be the scenarios where we can actually use them. Okay. So with that, the first function which we are going to talk today is called the sum function. As the name suggests, the sum function will sum up the value whatever you give. So if you give 2 plus 3, it will give you 5. Point to remember here, this function ignores the null value, okay, and when there is no result, you will get null from the database, okay. These are the 3 points which you need to remember, that what exactly is a sum function. It is used to sum the value, ignores the null, and when there are no result, you will get null as a return part, right? Whenever you are using the sum function as a developer, you always has an option to use the where, group by, order by, and the having clause to get the filtered records, right? Now these are some of the queries which I have put in here. Don't get bogged up by looking into that. Okay, it's a lot of stuff. Don't worry, at the end of this video you would be pretty much comfortable in writing all of this, okay. Now the first one, the sum function, right? So we are discussing the sum function here, and this query I am going to put it here so that we are able to see the results, okay. Now for example, today I have a requirement where I want to get all the price, that how much is the total price of all the items in my database, right? 55,000 plus 500 plus 700, how much is the total? For that I can simply use an statement which is like select, okay. Now as we are discussing sum, values simply an keyword which is called sum, and then I'll put a bracket. Now this is asking me what do you want to sum, okay. So let's say I want to sum the price. Now where is this price coming from? This price is nothing but this name header here, right? Price. Select sum of price. So I am telling the SSMS that give me the sum of price. Now the question is, how would the SSMS know? From where? So from the products. That's it, right? And if I just go and execute this guy, it gives me 64,510. That means that if you sum up all that column, you will get 64,510. So that is how easy it is to get the sum, right? Whenever we are writing the SQL, you always has this keyword which is known as, and you can just say like this, total, okay. So if you see here at the top, I am getting the header as no column name, right? Because I just aggregated something and it did not have a column name. But if you want to, let's say export this result, or you want to put it into some different data source and where you want headers, you can use this keyword which is as. And now if I again execute the same query, you will see that now I am getting a total, right? So again I just go back to the main table. So if I sum up all of this, I am getting 64,000 something. So that was using the sum function. Select sum of price as total from this statement. As simple as that, right? So that was the first use of the sum, right? Again the question arises, is it the only thing we can do? The answer is no, right? There is more to this statement. So let's say I want to know the sum only where it is the computers, right? I want to know the total only for the computer segment, right? How can we do that? So as in the previous session, we have seen the where clause. So you might have guessed it correctly. We always has an option to put a where clause also. And I simply write here segment is equal to computer. That's it, right? So this time this query is same. It is going to give me the total 64,000 something, but I have added an additional condition saying that I want you to give me the sum where the segment is computer, right? So for computer I only have this one, and if I total, it's come around 55,900 or something, right? 7512 56 something, right? Let's quickly hit the sum. Yeah, 56,200, right? So that means that one additional thing which you can do with the sum query, sum aggregate function, is that you can always include the where clause in it, right? You can use the where clause with one condition, put an or, and then you can have multiple condition as well, right? So that again depends on your implementation, but I hope you understand that we have an option to put the where clause in the query, okay. Now what else I can have? Now, for example, I want to know the total for all the segments. I want to know the total for computer, I want to know the total for stationery, the total for vehicle, and the total for electrical. One option is to use it like this. I go here, put the stationery here, execute it, right, and then it is giving me total, right? But do I have a proper way where I can categorize them, or I can group them, right? So you might have guessed it correctly. With the aggregate functions, you always has an option to use the group as well. Okay, so how can I write the group, right? So this query, we are just going to edit this query here, this one, right? So I'll go here. So see, select what do you want to get. I want to get the segment. So let me first quickly get this result, right? I want to get the segment, right? So as a developer, you need to be very much sure that what do you want, okay? So select, and I will write from, right? So I want the segment name, so I write here segment. Now it is asking me from where do you want. I want to get it from products. Select segment from products, right? So this is going to give me all the segments. Okay, first part is done. Next, what I wanted to do is I want to get the sum of the price, right? So if I just do the sum of the price here, this guy, right, you would have seen that I was getting sum of the price, right? So the same thing I'm going to do here as well. Select the segment, comma, sum of price. Okay, now whenever you use a sum of price, that means that you are going to get the segments and you are going to get the sum of the price from the products, right? If I go and try to execute this, it will give me an error. The error says that when you selected segment, I have a lot of segments, and when you selected a sum of price, the sum of price is a single value, right? So it is saying that it's invalid in the select list because it is not contained either in the aggregate function or in the group by clause, right? It is telling me that you have to first group it together to get the sum, and that's an absolutely valid thing, right? So to do that, I'll hit enter and I'll use something which is called group by segment. Now what is this group by segment? I am telling SSMS that give me all the segments, computers, computer, where all 5 times 6 times, right? So if you see here, when I select this one, right, I have this computer thing 3 times, stationery 4 times, vehicle 2 times, and this I think 4 or 5 times, right? So when I say a group by, it means that club all of this together. Okay, so that is what the group by does. Give me the single segment, then sum all the prices, and then give it from this table, right? So select segment, give me sum of the price from the product table. This is absolutely simple. Group by segment, this is important. Whenever you use directly this thing with an additional column, right? If I just select this, select sum of price from products, I was able to get directly the total. But as soon as you put comma and you include other things in the query, right, so you need to have that group by with this, right? Now if I simply go here and I execute this query, we are getting a total that for stationery you have a total of 120, for vehicle you have a total of 8,000, for computers you have a total of 56,200, right? Again the same thing, we are getting this as no column name, so I can always use as here and I can say total. Okay, now if I again execute, so it is telling me that for computer this is your total, for electrical this is your total, right? So that is how you use a sum function with a group by. What else we can do, right? So I hope you understand this group by and you understood the where. Okay, there is one more clause which we have seen while I was showing the presentation, that we can actually use having also. Okay, now what is having? Okay, now just see this statement. We have already seen this one, select segments, price as total from product, group by segment. Now I want to specify a condition here, right? I want to have some condition here. So can I put a condition? The answer is yes. To put a condition in the same statement, if I just write this having, I am telling you whatever result you get, okay, you just get me the result if the sum of the price is, let's say, greater than 7,000. Okay, so till this point when I was executing, we all understand that it is just calculating the sum. Now I want to have one more condition, that once you get the result, I want you to give me the results where the price is greater than 7,000. Okay, before executing this query, I would like to take a pause and I want you guys to let me know in the comments that if I execute this complete statement, how many records I am going to get and which are those records. Okay, there is no right or wrong answer. We are all trying to learn here, but let's see that if you are able to guess the correct thing or not. Okay, so we are telling SQL that give me the segment, the sum. Till this part we have got this. Now I want to impose an additional condition where sum is greater than 7,000. Okay, so I'll go execute this and I'm only remained with two statements, right? So I hope you guessed it correctly, because when I was executing this statement, right, I was having total 4 segments: computer, electrical, stationery and vehicle. Now in this 4 segment, I wanted to instruct SQL that give me where the total is greater than 7,000, right? So 8,000 is greater, this is greater, right? So if I go and execute, I am getting 2 records, right? So that is how this work, right? So this was 190. So if I just make it 250, let's say, right, when I am saying that sum of the price, the total should be greater than 150. Now I should get 3 records here. See, 190 is greater than 150, right? So the idea is having also we can use with the sum function. Coming back to our presentation, so this is what we have seen. We can use select, sum like this. We can use a where clause. We can use a group by, and with group by I can also use the having thing, right? Depending on your situation, now you can tweak this query and get the respective results, right? You can also use the order by clause, and all of these things you are free to explore, right? But I hope now you understand what exactly is the sum aggregate function. Okay, let's move forward. The next one, same like sum, I have something which is called AVG, right? The full form for AVG is average, right? The average function is used to calculate the average. The same thing, except here the same thing is applicable here as well. It ignores the null, it returns the null if you have the no results, right? It accepts only one parameter. It should be a valid column, valid expression, and where group by, order by can be available here, right? So I'll minimize this. Let's go back to the SQL. Okay, so sum is clear, right? So I'll minimize all of this. Let me just delete all of that. And let's now look at the next one, which is the average. Okay, so this is our product list, right? We have all these products available. We wanted to calculate the average, right? So let's say I want to know what is the average price of this complete thing, right? So how do I do that? Again, the same thing. You just write select, and I don't have to write the complete thing. I just write AVG, which is a keyword for average. The same thing comes here. Select the average of price from where? From the name of the table, which is products. Execute, and you are getting 4607, which is nothing but the average of all the prices of this product list. Okay, now again the same concept applies here as well. For example, I want to know segment wise, right, what is the average price. So I want to know the segment wise, right? You have to repeat yourself. I want to know segment wise what is the average, that what is the average for computers, what is the average for stationery, vehicle and all, right? So I need to include the segment. So in the same query, I'll use segment here. The same way, I hit a comma, right? So give me the segment, give me the average price, right? But how? You have to first group by segment, right? Because I want the SSMS to treat this as a one group. So SSMS will group all of this, total this, give me the average. Same it will do for stationery, the electrical and the vehicle, right? The same function we did in SUM. This time I'm using EVG, right? And this I will use as, and we can write here average maybe. Execute this, and now segment wise I am getting the average, right? So segment getting the average from the products group by segments, right? So I'll just hit enter here for better readability. And the good part, again, if I am having the group by option, I can always have the having option as well. Okay, so I can always say that order it by this segment where the average price is less than. It's not necessary that you always have to use the greater than. You can use the less than, you can use equal to also, right? So I'm telling SSMS that show me by segment where the average price is equal to, let's say, 30. Okay, so if I execute this, I'm only getting stationery. I can always use it like this also, less than 300, greater than 300, less than equal to, right? All those options are available for you, right? So that is how you use the average functions, right? Same like sum, we have this second function which was called the average. Coming back to my presentation, so as we have seen, the average functions calculate the average, returns the null, except column valid expression where group by, order by and the having clause can be used, right? I have not shown the where example, but you can always use select average of price from product where category is computer and the price is less than 5,000, right? You can always tweak the query and take a good hands on the average one. Okay, let's move forward now. The next one I have is the count, right? So count, as we can see, it's a count, the normal count we have in English, right? It is the same thing. It calculates the total number of rows which are available, right? Sometimes you have a requirement that I want to know that what is the total of all the row count in this thing, what is the total of the product, right? Whenever you have something total you want to get, I use something which is called count function, right? Since we are using the count, the return type of the count would be an integer. It would be a number 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, 100. Okay, applies here where group by, order by, having clause can be used. Okay, let's jump to the SQL and see how we can utilize the count function now. Okay, so I'm back in my SSMS. I'll remove this and I'll just change this to count now. Okay, so let's go back to the products, right? First thing first, as you can see, I have got around 14 records. So I simply want to know that what is the count of the records. So I can see here, select count of star, which means count everything from products. Execute, and total I am getting 14, right? So this is simple statement that select count everything from whichever is available in this table, right? Get you all the number of rows, right? And as again here you can use, this is an alias which you can give, right? This alias you can give anything, right? So let's say I want to write here subscribe, right? That is what I want to do, you guys to do, right? So as subscribe, so I go here and I can see that this is an alias which we get, right? This can be anything. So let's just total. Okay, so count of star means count the number of products which are available in this table. Okay, this is not only restricted to this thing. Okay, if you simply go and instead of this star, if you put here segment, okay, this also work, right? So you can put any specific column count as well and you can get the count. Okay, now one thing you might notice here that the count of segment is also coming as 14 because there are 14 records, right? What if I want to know that how many count are there only where there is computer, right? So Absolutely simple, right? So from, we can always use where condition, right? And I can say that where segment is equal to computer. That way you can actually count how many are there which are having computer, right? So count again can be used with a where clause. Okay, one more thing, the way we have been seeing, count again can be used with an aggregate as well. Okay, I want to know that how many I have for the computer, stationary, vehicle, and all of these things, right? So now you guys would have understand the concept, right? So you simply have to go to here, select, I am selling, give me the segment, give me the count of segment, okay, each segment from the products, right? The only thing would be group by what? How should I group it? Group it by segment. Execute, and you would see that the computer are 3, the electrical is 5, the stationary is 4, the vehicle is 2, right? Now one more thing you can do here, you can club the multiple aggregate function as well. Okay, let's say I want to know the total of the computer price as well here, right? So the price was available in this column, which was price, right? So I can put a comma here, and I can say that put a sum of the price column as well, and execute this. Now you would see I am getting the computer segment. I'm getting that total, I have 3 computers, the total is 56200, right? Sum of price. So it's not only restricted that you can only use one aggregate function, you can use the count, you can use the sum, you can use the avg, all of that together into a single query as well, right? So I can always use avg also, like this, avg average of price. Okay, so go here and execute, right? So I can use multiple aggregate function also in the similar query. Okay, now one thing here, again the same concept, if you are able to use group by, you would be able to use the having clause as well, right? Now in the having clause, I want to see that I want to get all these data, okay, where the, let's say the total, right, the count of the segment is equal to let's say 5, which means that I will only get this record, right, where the count of segment, the total number of segment count was 5, right? So I'll go and execute, and I am getting the single record, right? Now this is important because when you are working as a SQL developer, you might have a requirement to group the items and get the specific item with you, right? So that way you can use the multiple aggregate function together, you can use group by, you can use having, and you can get the specified results, right? So that was about the count function. We have seen that it returns as an integer. We can use it with the where clause, we can use it with group by, we can use the having, and depending on our condition, we can actually club the multiple aggregate functions as well. Okay, moving forward, this is the last item for today, which is the min and the max function. Okay, as the name suggests, the min means the minimum and the max means the maximum. Let's see how we can utilize and what is the use in the SQL. Okay, so I'll go back to my SSMS. I am back into my SSMS. I remove this query, and let's try to understand the min and the max, right? The concept is simple. The min means minimum and the max means maximum. Okay, I'll execute this. So this is my table. Okay, the first query which I am going to write here is that, let's say I want to get the minimum price from this one, right? So as we can see that the minimum price is something 20. How I can get that? So I simply go here, and we can use it like this. Select min of what? Min of the price. From where? From this table. execute, and you can see that the minimum price which was available in this was 20. Similarly, let's say I want to get the maximum, right? So instead of min, you have to write max. That's it. You get the maximum price, right? Not only this, you can actually put a comma here and you can get both of them together as well in a single statement like this. Okay. This you can use to get the maximum and the minimum value, not only from the price. It's not only restricted that we can always use price. I want to get the quantity, right? Sorry, quantity, QUANTITY, quantity. Okay. So not only restricted to the price column, you can always change the column, execute it, and get that this is the maximum count and this is the minimum count. Extremely helpful when you want to aggregate something in terms of min and the max. Okay. The next thing, I want to get the max quantity. I want to get the minimum quantity, right, from this table, and I want to group them by segment. Okay. Now let's see what happens. I want to group them by the segment, right? So this one I can call as max quantity, and this one I can call as, I hope now you understand what is the as doing, right? Group by segment. Execute. It is telling me that you have 30 as the maximum, 30, 50, 2 as the minimum, right? So that is how easy it is to use this one, right? Now I can always use the segment here, put a comma, so that we can actually better get readability, right? So it says that your segment is computer, maximum is 30, the minimum is 2. You have the electrical segment, the maximum quantity is 30, the minimum quantity is 12, right? So I have included this column here, so that gives a better readability. Okay. Let me execute it again, right? And you can see that I am getting this complete records when I execute this, right? So let's say I am having some more requirements, right? So I am having this maximum requirement, minimum requirement, right? So if I am able to use group by, the same concept is applying here as well. You can always use that having here. Okay. And I can say that give me this grid having the maximum quantity should be, let's say, greater than 40, right? So the maximum quantity greater than 40 is only for stationery. Execute. You get the result, right? One more thing which I want to show here is that it's not only restricted to only one column. You can always put an and. I am saying that the max quantity is greater than 40 and the min quantity, okay, the min quantity should be less than 15. You can use it like this as well, right? So I do not have anything which matches with an and condition. That's why we are not getting anything. So maximum greater than 40, I have this guy, and the min quantity is 25, so that is less than 30. Okay, so let's try to execute it now. And now you can see I am getting that option here, right? So that is how easy it is to use the aggregate functions. Okay. Back into my presentation. So that is the next thing, min and the max function, aggregate function, which we have seen, used to get the minimum and the maximum of the segments. Okay. So these were the last two aggregate functions which I wanted to cover. So that is pretty much which I wanted to cover today. Let's have a quick recap. So today we have covered the aggregate functions, count, average, max, min, and the sum. We have seen that we can use the where clauses with them. We have also seen that we can use the group by clause, and we can also use the having clause as well. Okay. It is not only restricted that you can only use one aggregate function. We can use multiple aggregate function in a single statement, right? So I hope that was helpful, and now you understand the aggregate function. With this, I would like to wrap this video here. If you have any more questions, any more doubts, feel free to reach out over the comments or over the email, right? I would like to wrap this video here. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, Please do subscribe to the channel and happy automation.